Well, let's get started here, guys, and let's go over copper. So, this is going to be one that I'm pretty excited to talk about. Talking about copper going into 2030. As of right now, copper is at $5.97. This is the most recent price that I'm looking at. And price targets of basically 750 to 850 by 2030. I think it could be higher than that. I think that's just for starters. But we're going to talk about this in the video today. It did achieve just a record high of $6.58. By the way, if you hear cats in the background, I promise they're just playing. They're going to be fine. No cats are harmed in the making of this video. Okay. Okay, guys, let's get started. So copper at 658, COMEX 14,527 per metric ton in January 2026. It looks like in terms of specifically, copper demand will surge 50% by 2040, reaching 42 million metric tons annually, and mining supply will struggle to keep pace. Okay, so investors who are seeking an asymmetric upside in a commodity with irreplaceable industrial applications, copper presents the clearest investment thesis of the decade. So let's get into it some more here. Copper is the backbone of electrification, the green energy transition in particular. 2.6 million tons, 2030 projection is that it's going to continue to increase. The 2040 projection as well. So a 265 increase in EV-related copper demand over 15 years is anticipated. Governments worldwide are mandating EV adoption. EU's 2035 ICE ban, California's 2035 target, China's new mandates. So all this stuff is good. Point is, the EV and electrification green energy trend is good for copper. Then we have artificial intelligence and data center power demands. The AI revolution is creating an unexpected second wave of copper demand that few forecasts anticipate even 3 years ago. Large language models, machine learning, training, and AI inference require massive computational power housed in data centers that consume extraordinary amounts of electricity and consequently copper. So then we think about S&P Global AI data center copper projects. 2025. So data centers are representing 5% of U.S. electricity demand. The 2030 projection, though, is that it will represent 14% of U.S. electricity demand. So AI data center copper, right? All this is increasing demand significantly. So global AI data center copper demand 1.2 to 1.8 million metric tons by 2030. Remember, just for AI data centers. A single hyperscale data center requires 2,000 to 3,000 tons of copper for power distribution, cooling systems, backup generators, and grid connections. Major tech companies are collectively investing 500 billion plus in AI infrastructure through 2027, which each project is very copper intensive. So then we think about defense, reshoring, and geopolitical copper needs. So military equipment, we have fighter jets, reshoring and nearshoring, new factories, etc. Grid reliability investments, including aging infrastructure in developed economies, needs $2 trillion in estimated upgrades from 2025 to 2035. So this is heavily copper dependent as well. S&P Global notes copper has become one of the world's most strategic metals, a commodity with national security implications, elevating its importance beyond pure economics. Now, let's move on to part two, the supply crisis and why copper cannot meet demand. Well, the structural deficit timeline in particular, Bloomberg NEF projects copper will enter a structural supply deficit starting in 2025. It'll extend drastically, though. The cumulative deficit they're looking at is 19 million metric tons. And you can fact check me on all this, guys. If you don't believe me, look it up, check it out for yourself. But this is actually a big problem for copper. So when it comes to by 2040, global copper demand will reach 42 million metric tons, but supply, even with recycled scrap doubling to 10 million tons, is only going to reach 32 million tons. So that creates a 23% supply gap, or 23.8% supply gap that cannot be closed without radical price incentives or demand destruction. So as we think about this, I say it's a problem, but at the same time, it's an opportunity for somebody who wants to invest in copper. Copper mining faces four structural constraints that prevent rapid supply expansion. 1980s average ore grade, for example, 1.5% copper content. 2025 average ore grade was 0.6% copper content. The implication, miners must move 2.5 times more material to extract the same copper, increasing costs and capital requirements. I also fact checked this just to confirm, guys. This is, I think, roughly accurate in terms of like the copper grades we're seeing in these mines from what it used to be, and now the grades are a lot lower. So Also, the project lead times, the times, can be 15 to 20 years from discovery to production. So only 5 to 7 significant projects globally, major new mines. There's not a lot coming online, guys. Permitting as well is a big one. And then we have geopolitical concentration. So Chile and Peru actually account for about roughly 40% of the global copper production. We have a lot of political instability, in terms of where this copper is produced. China, in particular, is one where that geopolitical risk is high. 50% of global copper refining capacity is, basically the deal there. So that is a major supply chain vulnerability because the risk is on China, right? Freeport-McMoRan, FCX, the world's largest publicly traded copper producer, projects that its 2026 copper sales at 3.4 billion pounds. 3.4 billion pounds of copper, which is a modest increase, reflecting the sector's inability to scale rapidly despite record prices. Then we have a recycling gap, right? Copper is infinitely it's recyclable, but recycling cannot solve the deficit. So the current recycled copper is roughly 9 million tons per year. 2040 recycled copper at 10 million tons / year. The problem is that you cannot recycle copper that doesn't exist yet. So EV, solar panels, and wind turbines installed in 2025 and 2030 will not reach the end of life until 2045 to 2060. Okay, so recycling helps, but it cannot bridge the 10 million ton gap. It's like the pumps on the Titanic. The ship's still going to sink. The pumps can buy time, as I think Mr. Andrews says, right? So that's another thing. So the pumps buy time. The recycling buys time, but there's still a huge deficit. Okay. Part 3, price projections. Where copper is headed. Well, where is copper headed right now? The high we saw in January was $6.58, and that was recent, but $5.96 roughly. So a lot of volatility recently. Now here's some institutional forecasts in particular. If we're looking at Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, S&P Global, the consensus range overall between all 4 of those analysts is $7 to $8.50 on average. So anywhere from 6 to 42% upside for copper from the current $6 trading range. However, I would be one to say that I think we can have a lot more upside than just $8 per, copper in the long term. So just remember, further upside from $6 though. Why do we have this upside? Basically we think about all of this, all the factors. There's so many factors we can look over, but the main one is the deficit of copper. That's the main one that we're focused on, is the supply-demand imbalance, which anytime you have that in a market, just like silver, you're going to see the same type of move. So silver in particular is a good example. We've had the same situation happen, but now it's happening to copper. So if we look at, investments, how do we actually gain exposure? I'm going to make a separate video talking about 3 copper mining stocks to invest in. That's going to be my next video, probably coming out tomorrow. But at the same time, when we think about what 3 companies can we actually invest in, one is Freeport-McMoRan. It's the world's largest publicly traded copper producer. It produces billions of pounds of copper, and it's a great company. Then we have Southern Copper Corporation, SCCO. It's Latin America's largest copper producer, in Mexico and Peru in particular. Market cap of $150 billion plus. Then we have BHP Group, diversified giant with copper focus. So it's a diversified mining giant that is specifically now focused more on copper, or it will be. So then we can also, instead of just those 3 companies, we can focus on mid-tier and growth-oriented. So if we don't want the large cap, big copper producers, we can go for more of the development stage ones. And specifically, as you get down to these, the risk will increase. Now, also OTC markets, that's something else. The liquidity risk on OTC markets will be a lot more. So that's something else to consider. Liquidity risk is basically the ability to buy and sell with ease. It's not the same as the New York Stock Exchange. So London Mining Corporation, LUNMF, check out these if you want. Earl Copper Corporation, I won't spend too much time on this. ERO. And remember, these are not recommendations. Just keep in mind based upon your own risk tolerance and investing goals. Hudbay Minerals, North American nearshoring beneficiary. And then we have copper ETFs like COPX, for example, the Global X Copper Miners ETF, the United States Copper Index Fund, CPER. So that's another one. And then we have the strategy 4, which is physical copper. You can actually buy physical copper. You can buy, they make copper bullion coins you can purchase. But here's a sample portfolio. You can do ETFs for copper. Your 15 to 25% aggressive growth portfolio into copper. Here's an example of what you could do. You see the different ETFs, you'll see the stocks, etc. Now, risk factors. As far as risk factors and mitigation when it comes to this whole thesis of copper, remember that China is a big geopolitical risk. Real estate crisis, demographics, etc., can reduce consumption. Mitigation, with Western electrification and data centers in particular, I think can offset the China decline. Technological substitution, so aluminum substitution in power grids, that's happening. Wireless charging, reducing EV copper content, and then mitigation. Copper superior conductivity makes it the substitution difficult, though, for most applications. And then demand destruction from high prices. So if copper reaches $10 to $12/pound, so if it actually does hit those levels, some marginal projects may be canceled. Mitigation would be that electrification is policy mandated and relatively price and elastic. So then supply surging from new discoveries, unlikely. This is unlikely given 20-year lead times, but it's possible. And you can diversify across multiple producers. So use ETFs. Use ETFs, invest in ETFs. And then copper stocks can decline even if copper rises, right? So just remember that copper can go up and the stocks can still go down, depending on the types of stocks you're investing in as well. It really depends because some stocks are going to be more established than others. There's going to be a lot less risk for Freeport-McMoRan than some of the other stocks I mentioned in this video. Conclusion. It should say new silver, not the new oil, but I like using it as the new silver because silver's gone up so much recently. And so can copper do the same thing? I think it can. I think $10 to $12 even is, for a pound of copper is reasonable. $8, that's the consensus range, $7 to $8.50. But I mean, ultimately, look at all these factors. Structural demand of growth of 50+% by 2040. The supply deficit widening to 10 million tons by 2050. The price upside, like I just mentioned. And then multiple, you can basically invest in multiple ways, right? So just remember that there's multiple entry points. There's ETFs, there's individual stocks, there's the smaller and mid caps, also the larger cap type stocks that we mentioned in this video. And I'm going to make a video on 3 copper miners to consider. That'll be a separate video coming up next. So the red metal is the smartest commodity play of the decade, positioned accordingly with 8 to 15% of diversified portfolios for moderate investors, 15 to 25% for aggressive growth strategies. The Copper Supercycle is not speculation, it is industrial inevitability. And remember, based upon your risk tolerance and investing goals, this is just an example. Always invest based upon your risk tolerance and investing goals, and always make sure that you are consulting with a financial advisor if you need to, based upon what you're trying to achieve in the markets. And no, these are not specific recommendations for your portfolio, and we do fall under the publisher's exemption. So with that in mind, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for making it to the end. I think I'm, very bullish on copper. I think copper is a good one for the long term. I think it can be the next silver. And so, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And thanks so much for making it to the end of this video.